So when you combine the worlds of Stranger Things and Mario, are there piranha plants in the Upside Down?
I'm Backrolls.
I'm Mac Fraser, and we're the Nintendo Nerds.
We're a comedy and gaming duo here to help you craft and play your way to a better day.
We met in the not too distant past during some spirited online Mario Kart, and as it turns out, we share a love for art, gaming, and all things Nintendo.
And we want to share our nerdy knowledge with you.
So stick around, because in today's video, we are joined by Robin, known on social media as Scout the Robot.
Now, when we seek out artists to come on our show, we like to ask guests who wear their nerd love proud on their sleeve. And when it comes to Robin's art, perhaps you should consider her work for your tattoo sleeve. Harkening back to a classic maritime tattoo style, Robin combines her gorgeous, dynamic line and color work with some of your favorite nerdy worlds. From Pokemon and Mario Brothers to Harry Potter and Steven Universe, Robin's traditional and digital art will absolutely charm you. Or get you to Charms class. Robin, thanks for being with us today. It's so exciting to have you.
Oh, thanks for having me.
So Robin, you've been sharing your work online for many years now. We have some of your earliest work going all the way back to 2012. When did you really get into making art, and what started you on your journey?
Well, in terms of my actual doing it more regularly, I took art classes when I was younger, but didn't actually start taking it as some kind of serious endeavor or attempt to kind of improve until about 2012 or thereabouts. I was living in LA and had about 18 different jobs, and then some of them ended up leading to situations where I ended up being able to use art to make money. And then I thought this is probably a thing I should get better at. And then I started practicing more and just making more and going from there.
Well, it seems as though, although you do diverge stylistically, you keep coming back to this vintage maritime-inspired look. Now, for those of you who don't know the work of Gus Wagner or Ed Hardy, the actual Ed Hardy, not the clothing line that came out a couple years ago, it's really worth looking up. There's a lot to be inspired by in their works. And when did you really find that this was one of the main ways that you really enjoyed making art?
I think it started initially when I wanted to get my first tattoo. I've always really liked tattoo art because I tend to really like bold lines and really bright colors. I think stylistically, it's just really clean, bright work. I don't work too much in realism. I've delved into it a little bit, but I think there's too much pressure there.
Agreed. And if it doesn't bring you joy, why do it, you know?
Yeah, I mean,
Absolutely.
it's a good exercise every now and then, and I really enjoy kind of doing it as a throwaway that will never see the light of day. But generally, I really like art that's really sort of bold and bright, and that's kind of the point of tattoos. There's a saying in tattoo kind of culture that bold will hold. So if you make really nice, clean, sharp lines and really vibrant colors, that's what's going to stay, on your skin, but it also makes for really dynamic and fun art pieces.
It's funny that was the quote that you used, because I have heard Chris Nunez say that multiple times on a certain TV show.
Ooh, yes. Yeah, and it's kind of the best thing about that medium is there's not you can make dynamic art without making it too overly complicated.
Absolutely. Well, some of the best tattoos are the ones that just look like stickers. It's like you pulled them off of a sheet and just threw them on your arm or threw them on your leg.
Oh yeah.
I love that trend that popped up about a year ago of looking like an embroidered patch pin as a tattoo.
Oh yeah,
those are so cool. Yes.
Good. There's an artist right now who just started doing tattoos that look like a sticker, but it has an edge peeled up and there's like a stencil underneath for when tattooers make stencils before they actually start working. And it's really cool.
Oh yeah,
I love all that.
You love so many of our very favorite things: Stranger Things, Harry Potter, Little Shop of Horrors, and of course the world of Nintendo.
Absolutely.
You've drawn a ton of Pokemon in particular. When did you get into the series?
Pokemon I actually didn't really get into until I was an adult. Um,
I like that you sounded a little nervous about that. We're like,
do.
you're not a
I
real
mean,
nerd.
it's so silly. Well,
Honestly, I think the truth is that we're finding that the adults are playing the Pokemon while the 10-year-olds are on Call of Duty.
you know, that's so true. I have an 8-year-old nephew who is really into like Madden and Call of Duty and all of these other games, and I'm just trying to get him into Pokemon. And it's going really slowly. Um, but yeah, so when I was growing up, my parents didn't let me ever have any sort of video game consoles. They didn't really understand it, and they didn't like it that much. So I didn't start playing video games really until I was in college, and my best friend had a GameCube. And
Great way to start.
Oh,
Yeah,
love
exactly.
the GameCube.
it was solid. And then after that, he brought it home when he came to stay with me for spring break, and then my dad bought a GameCube. So I was never allowed to have one, and then he bought one. And then from there, so we kind of went on like that. But so I ended up getting a DS shortly thereafter, and Pokemon was one of the first things that I liked playing, because I tend to like the games that I like are usually either like platformers or kind of RPG quest. Give me something to find and I'll find it, and then you'll tell me I did a good job.
So what was the first Pokemon game that you played on the DS then?
I played Diamond.
Nice.
So that was the first one I played. My dad was a teacher, and he confiscated a Game Boy Color from someone when I was really young, and I played Pokemon Yellow on a Game Boy Color for like a week, and then I had to give it back. But yeah, Pokemon Diamond was my very first one.
So how excited are you for Pokemon Sword and Shield?
Oh my god, I'm so excited. I have Let's Go Pikachu on the Switch, and it was super fun to play through because it's a throwback. Because I've since gone back and played earlier games, but I'm looking forward to a new full Pokemon game for the Switch, because I'm pretty obsessed with my Switch.
Well,
That
that's
makes
good to
three of us.
hear. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I was playing it the other day, and I was just like, I am really just a Nintendo person. I don't really care about many other games out there.
Oh, it's so funny. Mac and I always say that. I have a pile of shame for my PlayStation of games
Yep.
that I would love to play in theory, but I'm
Yeah.
apparently never going to.
I have a PS3, and there are 2 games that I play on it, and I will never give it up because I like those 2 games, and I have no desire to get anything else ever. But I always want whatever's new with Nintendo.
So, what games are you playing these days?
So I am playing through Link's Awakening,
Oh.
which is fun, but ultimately shorter than I wanted it to be.
And
'Cause
those of us who are a
I'm
little
getting
more
pretty near the
seasoned
end.
Zelda players are kind of breezing through that one. I'd agree with
Oh,
you.
sure. Yeah. I like it. I don't like it, honestly, as well as, what was it, A Link Between Worlds? I
On the
loved
3DS.
that game.
What a
Oh, Link
wonderful
Between
title.
Worlds was
I've
so
played
good.
and replayed that game. It was so good. And then I just, a couple weeks ago, I beat the Untitled Goose Game, which is my new favorite thing in the world.
Same.
And
I just
when
made a
you-
recommendation for that on our channel. We're big fans.
I
So
haven't, I
good.
haven't, I haven't played it yet, but I definitely am gonna have to make some time because everybody seems to tell me that it's worth it.
Not to diverge too much, but Untitled Goose Game is the ultimate video game I would recommend to anyone who's not even ever played a video game before.
Sure.
Just so satisfying, such great game design, and it just
Oh,
makes
yeah.
you want to cause havoc.
Well, and it's true, and I always get teased because I'm very like soft-hearted. I like being nice to people. That's kind of like what I'm all about. So it's really fun for me to just run around as a goose and jerk to
Rake
people
in the lake.
with no real life repercussions. And every single aspect of it makes me laugh. Like, I'm so obsessed. I was playing it last night, and there's a part where you, as a goose, pick up a bottle and you get it stuck on your beak, and then when
The sound
you honk,
design changes, exactly.
yeah, the sound design changes, and like it does with a harmonica. And
You know,
it's
I'll have to
just-
share.
it's just
I'll
so
have to
great.
share this clip. I have a million motion captures from it, but even such clever sound design that I wondered to myself, I wonder if I stick my head in this sewer grate, if it will echo. And lo and behold, it did.
It does. I know. It's just so smart in that way.
Immensely satisfying game design. So shout out to
Definitely.
that team of 4. You did a wonderful job.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the only other one that I've played and replayed and continue playing is Breath of the Wild. I just keep coming back to that one.
Oh yes, I have played through it 3 times.
Oh yeah, I beat it, and now I'm going through and I'm doing the additional assignments that Kelton gives you, where you find all the Hinox and the Stalnox and all the different monsters, and you kill them.
Oh
So
yes.
that's been fun.
So back to your art for a little bit. How has your artistic practice changed over time? Last year in your social media postings, your hashtags were actually Sporadi Inktober, I think it was, right? Sporadi Inktober?
Sporadic
Oh,
October.
Oh, Sporadictober, haha. But this year you are making so much content. Did you have a shift in your creative methods?
Actually, I did. The biggest thing for me that happened within the last like year or so, well, even reaching back further than that, I had this big realization that if you actually practice something, you can get better at it, which I never applied in my
novel
life
thought,
up to that point. Yeah, no, I'm like, no one ever told me this, but they did all the time. I just never tried. Um, and that's, it's what happens when you have any sort of talent at anything and you're like, I don't even have to try and this is fine. But if you want it to be more than fine, that's when the practice part comes in.
200%.
Yeah, absolutely. So the big thing that happened is last year I got an iPad Pro with the pencil. And the big thing that changed with that is the ability to just make art anywhere on the fly. That's all I needed. I could do it every day, all the time. So that really changed kind of what I was making. And now I have pieces that I've got probably 100 pieces that are either completed or in some state of completion that I can just kind of bounce around to, or I can sketch something out and then do it traditionally. It just increased. And, art is not about output, but it definitely helps to finish something, so you feel that sense that you're actually making something and you're not just toiling away needlessly.
Exactly.
So
I am someone who keeps up practice pretty regularly, but my partner, he's a far more talented natural artist than I am. But because he doesn't make things regularly, I feel like he's got this hurdle that he can't get over. And I'm just start making. The only way to be happy with your content is to just keep creating, and when you make mistakes, say, I'll fix it in the next painting.
Yeah, exactly. And that really gave me the opportunity to start making more and finishing more. And sometimes I'd make something and it would be fantastic and I loved it. And sometimes I would make something and I'd finish it just to finish it. But the fact that it's given me, so I don't have to, like when I do digital art, I used to have my computer and my tablet and my pen and space for all of it, and the learning curve for drawing in one place and seeing it in another. And then if I wanted to do traditional art, I'd sketch it and then I'd have to copy it and make it and have all my paint out. So the fact that I can kind of do all of that in one very kind of compact package and I can do it anywhere is made a huge change in basically my production of art. And the more I made, the more practice I got and the more I started liking what I was doing. And so that helped a lot because I felt like I was actually accomplishing something.
Absolutely. Now, some of your artwork has been commissioned into real tattoos, right?
Oh yeah, that's pretty fun.
So I've seen open offers on your social media. Is there any chance that one day you're going to learn to apply some of these tattoos yourself?
I go back and forth on that a lot. I would love to, and I've had a friend of mine who tattoos who's offered to let me do an apprenticeship, and I just think it would be great. And then I just got a tattoo in May, and it's a full color piece on my forearm. And like while it was happening, I just thought there is no way I would be able to do this to another person. So I go back.
It's that
and
kind-hearted nature of yourself, right?
Yeah, and it's also the fear of permanence.
Yes, absolutely.
I like being able to make mistakes that are just mine with no consequences to other people. So, so I go back and forth on that. It's definitely a goal. It's not something that would be happening anytime soon, but maybe it's definitely on my bucket list.
So you mentioned before that you used to work primarily in physical art, watercolors, and the like, but you make a lot of digital art nowadays. How has the shift impacted your art, other than, like you had already talked about with regards to being able to take it anywhere really now?
Sure. I think the biggest thing is that especially for any artist who wants to create something or sees other people making art, there's a lot of concern about style and like having a personal style and like making sure that if you see art, it looks like you made it. And there's a lot of artists that have a very stylized kind of way that they work, and or their art is very recognizable. And I think for me, having the access and doing an increase in digital art allowed me to kind of work toward that, because I was doing so much more that it just kind of, instead of being concerned with it, it just developed naturally based on the volume of work I was doing.
It's like that very famous Andy Warhol quote, like, don't even bother to judge your own art, just be so busy making more art that you don't even notice. Don't even listen to the audience, just keep creating.
Well,
I butchered the quote, but it's there.
No, I know exactly what you're doing, what you're talking about. I think about that all the time because it's one of the hardest things that's kind of happening in the art community right now, is that there's such a push to make your art very public and to produce work and to post it and to get feedback on it. And it's really great when you want inspiration, but it's also really challenging because it's easy to compare yourself to other people.
Very much so.
And so it is really important just to be so busy making your own art that you don't care about what other people are doing.
It's easier to preach it than it is to practice, but I try my best when I share a piece of work to not then get sucked into Instagram, where I then compare myself to such amazing artists such as yourself or others, these amazing artists who've been at it for a long time, because I'm strictly a watercolor doodler who just finds the joy in it casually.
Sure, and that's perfect. And I love the Majora's Mask piece that you're working on right now. It's just beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
but that only comes from lots and lots and lots of practice. So if anyone looks at things like this, I never would have been able to attain it without many failures before that. There were several sketches that didn't make it to social media.
Yeah, well, and it's interesting because so the other thing is I've watched a lot of like other people's YouTube channels and different ways that people work. And when I work in watercolor, I work specifically with like liquid ink, like Dr. Martens.
Mm-hmm.
And most people work with watercolor from a tube or in a pan. So I'm watching all of these videos and I'm like, should I be doing that? Is that better, or should I be changing what I'm used to? And so I
just watching those people makes you second guess yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just like, they're getting colors and their techniques are different than mine. And so I'd go out and I'd get watercolors and I'd make up a pan and I'd do all the things. And that's what I did when I did the little piranha plant. That's the first one I've done in using pan watercolors since I was in elementary school. And it was a different experience, but it also really kind of drove home that just because that's what other people are doing and the success that they're having doesn't necessarily mean that that's what I need to be doing.
Exactly.
The benefit of being a creator or an artist is that you have creative control over what it is that you do. And again, people are always going to be doing things a little bit differently, I think. But, it's always nice to also broaden our horizons a little bit, right? Look at, okay, this is what someone else is doing. Let's try it out. Let's see what happens. And the thing is, you might find a way in which this application is going to work for you in the future.
Oh, definitely. That's one thing that I figured out last year that just changed my life, is that I was watching an artist who works primarily in gouache, which is something that I've never really experienced. It's like a mix it's like cross between
It's like if
like
acrylic and watercolor had a baby, but it's water
Yes.
based.
All
yeah,
right.
which is really great. So exactly, that's exactly what it is. And part of me wanted to like go out and buy gouache and do the thing, and I was just like, no, you're gonna scale that back. But what I did get,
Pump the
thankfully,
brakes.
thankfully, I have a wife who doesn't let me go crazy. Otherwise, I would have no money and probably be living on the street with all of my art supplies. But what I did get is and that I took from their video and used in my own practices, I use white gouache now.
Yes.
Which is, so anytime I need to do highlights, or the brilliance of that is with watercolor, because it's so unforgiving, you can't lighten. But if you add just white gouache, it helps make it a little more opaque, and you can put on highlights. And it's absolutely changed the way I work, because it makes everything a little bit easier, because it takes away the threat of permanence.
Yes. And I think one of the great takeaways from this conversation is to say to young artists, take everything that people say online with a grain of salt, universally across the board, and trust yourself. If you pick up a medium that sings to you when you put it on the paper, dig into that as much as you can, and don't listen to what's popular right now, because gouache is very popular right now, and I tried it, but I can't stand looking at my own brush strokes, and they're very visible in gouache.
Yeah.
Maybe in
It's
a
very
future
unforgiving.
life. Well, I'd imagine that your transfer to a lot of digital work has also made it easier to make some of these great pins and prints. Now, your latest pin was a Stranger Things and Little Shop of Horrors mashup. How did you enjoy designing some wearable art?
That was actually, it was so fun. So that's a design that I was rewatching Stranger Things because we had just finished season 3. So of course I decided
I
to
missed
watch the
season
whole
1
thing
now.
over again. I know, it's exactly, I was just like, now what happened? So I went back and I rewatched the whole thing. And then I'm always obsessed with Little Shop of Horrors. It's one of my favorites. And I keep trying to convince my wife to let me get a Little Shop of Horrors tattoo of the piranha plant, or of the plant, and she is just like, we'll come back to it. I mean,
Shelve
she's
that
not the
idea
boss
for
of me,
now.
but she kind of is. But anyway, so I was rewatching it, and I just did a quick little sketch because I hadn't made anything in a little while, and I'm just like, I'm gonna put this down, and it's gonna be quick and dirty. And then someone else who's on Instagram, who specifically does enamel pins, actually reached out to me and said, I really like your design, and I want to buy it from you and make it into pins and like do all this stuff. And I'm like, I don't really want to sell you like the design, because then it's not mine anymore. And then she said, well, great, then we'll partner together. We'll do a line of pins, and then we'll split the profits and go from there. And it worked out really well, because she did all of the management she did the pre-sale, which paid for production. And then she sent me half. And then we were able to kind of make this cool thing together, which is something that now I kind of have a little bit more information. So it's less scary if I want to do it myself.
As always, we love to ask our guests here, who are some of your biggest influences beyond the love of nerdy pop culture? Who are the people that inspire you to make art?
In that case, some of it actually does come back to nerdy pop culture.
Which is also allowed.
Yeah, absolutely.
No,
We're not
it's
saying you
so
can't
true.
talk about that.
I mean, a lot of it is just coming from, my family and my friends who are really supportive. And if we're talking very literally, what encourages me to do art, that is definitely it, to have, a support system. And I have a lot of friends who will commission me to make pieces, and like my manager has a bunch of different softball teams, and he's commissioned me to design a bunch of their jerseys. So that's, if we're the actual literal encouragement, that's what that answer is.
Oh, awesome.
It's so nice
But
to hear that from
generally-
someone, to
Yeah,
recognize
it's great.
that the love you have in your world can help make your art.
Absolutely, because there's a lot of times when I just don't want to do it because you've got art block, or there's other things. I also have very cyclical interests, so sometimes I just don't. Art takes a back seat, and then I spend 3 months doing nothing but baking. So it just kind of it just works out however it works out. But honestly, the big one of the big things that really inspires me is anytime I need like a little punch of inspiration is going to, I mean, honestly, art museums, but the big one is amusement parks, which I didn't really think about.
Oh, I love that.
I do
That's
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. What a cool place to
Especially
get
because
inspired.
you are so you are all about color, and what a perfect place to explore vibrant color
absolutely.
and color stories,
Mhm.
telling someone how they should feel because of the full environment. Like Disneyland is a masterclass on setting up set dressing and making people
Oh, it
feel a certain
is.
kind of way.
Yeah.
Gorgeous. Yeah, and that's I was having a really kind of I was having really bad art block in the during the summer, and I just didn't. I had all this stuff that I kept picking up and putting back down, and then for my birthday, we went to Universal and we went to, as I call it, Harry Potter Land, and just
Mhm.
being there, and it's because it's basically an immersive kind of artistic experience where everybody came together, and it's inspiring because you're just because of the immersive quality, but it's also inspiring because you look at all of these people and all of these artisans and the people who originally imagined it and all of the different liberties they've taken in this world that they've created, but also the impact that they can have on a person's kind of experience is really inspiring. So
Well,
that definitely makes me want to get out there. And then the other one is, do you know who Ron Gilbert is?
I don't.
He's a game designer, and he used to work for LucasArts, and he is kind of the grandfather or the godfather rather of point and click adventure games.
Oh, he must have
Okay.
played a hand in Day of the Tentacle then.
Oh my
Day of the
goodness.
Tentacle is
Yes.
his. Monkey Island is my favorite. That's his game too. And he did a game recently, within the last like 5 years, which of course, it's called
Thimbleweed Park. Yes.
Yeah, so that's his game too.
What a great
And I
shout out.
always
That one's
find-
available on Nintendo Switch if you feel like playing.
It is. I love that game. But just anytime I go and I open up something that is like this perfect combination of kind of clever and also artistically interesting, makes me want to make more art.
Well, we have time for one more question, Robin. It's so clear you love Nintendo. You even had a Yoshi-themed birthday cake.
I
But
did.
here's a tough question. If you woke up tomorrow and you were magically the art director of any Nintendo franchise, which one would you want it to be?
Oh man, that's rough. Well, honestly, that's a ridiculously difficult question, and
It is, I'm
kind of
sorry.
glad you asked it. No,
I'll let you choose two.
no. I think in this case, I'm just scrolling through, and I think the ones that I would choose are of course the very bright colored, adorable games, which is the Yoshi franchise because I'm obsessed with the direction that they've taken it in with Woolly World and Crafted World. I think those are
Mhm.
both genius. And then Kirby because he is adorable and round, and I like that he eats everything and then becomes that thing.
All of those games are so aesthetically pleasing.
They are, and they have because they are a very like stylized. I mean, but every Nintendo game is you can look at it and tell exactly what it is, that's the one thing I did like about Link's Awakening is that there are so many other like it feels like a crossover in a lot of ways because you have like the Piranha Plant and you have the Bow Wow and you have all of the like Chain Chomp. So that was fun. But yeah, definitely any of the adorable, very aesthetically pleasing games.
Well, Robin, thank you so much for being with us today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. This has been delightful.
Well, as always, we hope that you leave this video ready to pick up a Pro Controller, a paintbrush, or a pen. I'm Backrolls.
I'm Mac Fraser, and this has been the Nintendo Nerds.